If you've been paying attention to Mortal Kombat news lately, you probably heard that at EVO, we got some more information regarding the Mortal Kombat Legacy Collection, and we finally found out the answer on if we're gonna get PS2 era titles in the game. Unfortunately, the answer is no. Why? Let's talk about it. I think I know why.
Fight!
Good morning, afternoon, and evening everyone, Nick here, and welcome back to the channel. At EVO 2025, Shinfitz did an interview with Digital Eclipse's Dan Amrich regarding the development behind the game. This interview had shared a lot of the development insights, provided more details that people have been wanting to know, such as which port would be used for Mortal Kombat Trilogy, more of the hardware specs, and the biggest question, which other games would be included, or in this case, excluded. First off, I want to say huge shoutouts to Shinfitz for actually interviewing this guy and providing it to the internet. I'll link his video down below so you can check it out or support their content. The part that's been floating around Twitter for quite some time, and you probably have seen this, the subtle deconfirmation of Mortal Kombat Gold, and from some segments earlier in this interview, no Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance, Deception, Armageddon, Shaolin Monks, and Mortal Kombat 9. Yeah, I don't know why people were getting so worked up that Mortal Kombat 9 wasn't going to be included in here. So let's talk about this. First off, the biggest reason on why we're not getting any of the PS2 era titles on here is hardware limitations. Yeah, I know, it's crazy that we're having hardware limitations in an era where the PlayStation 5 Pro, the Xbox Series X, and the Switch 2 exist. But unfortunately, it's a lot of time, manpower, and sometimes lack of resources. In several parts of this interview, you do hear several hardware limitation points, saying that it's unfortunately not in their scope, or that in the porting process, it's just not that easy to bring everything over. Sure, getting stuff like the 8-bit and 16-bit era titles over, something that pretty much any console is capable of doing at this point, and my god, if you have a hard time running Shovel Knight, then you should probably exit the console market. But yeah, it's loads easier getting a bunch of 8 and 16-bit era games all in one collection with some extras sprinkled here and there. Honestly, this collection is just very comparable to something like the Street Fighter arcade collections. But when you're porting the 6th era consoles such as the Xbox, the PlayStation 2, and GameCube, porting it over or getting emulation can honestly be tricky. It really sounds like the Digital Eclipse team really put more time and energy trying to get PlayStation emulation done correctly. Hell, that was really a hard string of words to say right there. You can even hear it in the interview. He was so excited they were able to nail that for the first time.
We have done 8-bit, we have done 16-bit.
Right.
This is the first time we've been able to make the breakthrough where we have stable PlayStation 1 emulation that works on all the platforms we have to support. So that becomes a baseline. If we can't get an emulator to run in our engine through that thing, then it's a no-go. So there's a lot of games that people are dreaming of. We don't have a PlayStation 2 emulation. Have you ever seen anybody doing a PlayStation 2 emulation in a collection? And yet we know people love we love Shaolin Monks.
Right.
Is that on the plan for this? No, it's just technically out of scope for what we can do.
That makes sense.
But we can do PlayStation 1, so we're like, well then we gotta do Trilogy. Let's get Trilogy.
And thankfully,
So yes, on the record, this is the first time Digital Eclipse has done PlayStation emulation. I'm super proud of our team for being able to do it. And again, we've optimized things that we can optimize. But
So yeah, I can understand that if they're trying to get the PlayStation 1 version done right, and after seeing what was showcased at EVO with a modified version of the PlayStation version of Trilogy, yeah, they nailed it. Now imagine if they were spread very thin trying to get the PlayStation, and then you get the other editions working. None of those would be optimized or would be working well at all. So personally, if you ask me, I do think that having one version of the game run very well as a sacrifice to not including a couple more beloved titles, I'd say was a valued sacrifice. And later on in this interview, he actually mentions how he would love to do a follow-up with the beloved titles.
there's a lot of dream stuff. We love Shaolin Monks. We know everybody loves Ed Boon loves Shaolin Monks, right? Like, we know. I reviewed Shaolin Monks back in the day when I was working in video game magazines, so I get it. But yeah, that's kind of like out of scope just because technically it's not feasible for what we're doing this time. If we get the opportunity later to work on that technology, make it work, if this goes well and they go, you know what, there's this entire PS2 Xbox era that we think that you should do, we would love to have that conversation. That conversation is happening and we gotta get this shit out the door.
So yeah, you can tell that they want to do this. Maybe after this is a big success, maybe Digital Eclipse and Warner Brothers will work together again, have a larger budget, give them more time and resources so they can actually port the other versions of the game. Imagine how cool it would be to actually play something like Deadly Alliance, Deception, and Armageddon on modern platforms. Or as he mentioned, Shaolin Monks, that would be dope. So for now, I am totally fine with this being a testing ground, and if this is the reason we're not getting these titles, that's fine by me. But there's another thing I wanted to bring up that was mentioned in plenty of the marketing, and that's reason number 2. This is meant to celebrate the arcade era of the games, with emphasis bringing back Mortal Kombat 4 and Trilogy to modern audiences. When this was announced earlier this summer at State of Play, the biggest thing that it was marketing is that it was going to be the biggest arcade collection of Mortal Kombat games, actually including Mortal Kombat 4 and then later down the line, Trilogy, which is a huge deal. Let me break it down for you. In the PS3 and Xbox 360 eras, that was the last time we had a digital version of playing the arcade trilogy. Okay, when I say trilogy, I don't want it to be confusing. I mean only Mortal Kombat Classic, Mortal Kombat 2, and Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 on a port that really wasn't done that great. And for the longest time, that was the only modern way to play it, but now with the Xbox 360 marketplace shut down, it's really hard to play those titles without some form of emulation. But on the other hand, Mortal Kombat 4 and Trilogy have been nearly inaccessible for way too long. Trilogy had released on the Nintendo 64 and original PlayStation back in September of 1996. Now sure, you can play this game on GOG for PC, but if you wanted to play this on console, you would have to go to that service exclusively, then or go to a disc replay or some vintage game store and get it for the R-Zone. Same goes with Mortal Kombat 4. However, that was more available on arcades and could be played on the 64, Dreamcast, and PlayStation. But the fact that these two titles were excluded from that Mortal Kombat collection for the PS360, it is a huge deal that we're able to play these games on modern platforms. And I think the team knows that. These games have been pretty inaccessible for a good number of people, so selling the entire game on it, the fact that, hey, Mortal Kombat 4 and Trilogy are available in this collection, yeah, you're gonna convince a lot of people to buy this. And given the fact that it has online multiplayer is another huge deal. It's so big, in fact, that Ed Boon received over 20,000 responses when he asked which title they were looking forward to the most, and it was Trilogy. I'll finally be able to play this game without emulation. It's just another amazing way to bring the community together. And speaking of bringing up the community, what makes the fighting game scene so great? For me, the best part is coming together and just enjoying this wonderful genre, whether it's competing with each other, finding new strategies, or just making all of these wonderful connections at these events. But how do we capture that magic and experience from home? That's where today's sponsor, Brawl GG, comes in. This new service can connect you with other players and get you into some game-specific forums such as Mortal Kombat 1, Street Fighter 6, Tekken 8, Guilty Gear Strive, and even Fatal Fury, tracking all of your progress into one place. One of the coolest things I'm looking forward to are competing in their skill-based PvP wager battles using their virtual currency, Brawl Bucks. This lets you challenge other players and see how you stack up without putting any real money on the line. The more you play, the more your rank grows, giving you more of a sense of progress. This platform is launching with support for the biggest titles, and they're bringing the entire community together. So what are you waiting for, and pre-register today at brawl.gg. Also pay attention to their Instagram by clicking the link in the description down below. Once again, a big thank you to brawl.gg for sponsoring today's video, and with that, let's get back to the discussion, shall we? Alright, out of the sponsor realm, and I wanted to close out my second reasoning for that. This game seems like it's more of a focus about the arcade era, not including the home console ports or anything like that. I feel like if this does well enough, we're going to get another collection focusing on the other stuff. Hell, we've seen Capcom do that several times, and I guarantee that Mortal Kombat will follow suit with more beloved titles. And moving on to reason number 3, and probably the shortest one, is that if we were gonna get all of the titles titles in this bundle would be way too expensive. Okay, let's be real here. If we really did get Mortal Kombat Gold, Special Forces, Mythologies, Deception, Deadly Alliance, Armageddon, Shaolin Monks, and even Mortal Kombat vs. DC and Mortal Kombat 9, not only is that really a big ask for a collection, it's really gonna reflect on how much that thing would realistically cost. The collection's anywhere between $50 to $150 depending on which edition you get, and honestly for that price point, you get a pretty good deal out of it. Not only do we get to play Mortal Kombat Classic 2, 3, Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3, 4, and Trilogy, along with crazy different ports included and some behind the scenes interviews with the team behind it. That's a pretty good collection. Now, I haven't actually played the game yet to actually get an idea of like, does it feel better than going to like any of the other editions, but just looking at it MSRP, that's a good asking price. Now let's say we would tack on all of these other games on here, and on top of that, all of the other editions, and if we would have to go through all of the red tape, like the licensing stuff, such as a possible deal with Sega to get the MK Gold version out because that was exclusive to Dreamcast, or if they wanted to renew the license to have Kratos come back in this for PlayStation, that's gonna cost a lot more, and either one of two things are gonna happen. One, the game would either be $70, or you would have to buy a bunch of DLC to put it on here just to get all of the other editions. Add on top of that, if they did want to spend a bunch of time and energy wanting to get all of the hardware working correctly to emulate the PS2 and Xbox versions of the game, that in turn would cost a lot more development money. So yeah, I wouldn't mind if we just focused exclusively on the arcade stuff instead of just bundling everything into one, because this thing would start to become an overpriced mess if you ask me. So I think it's the right call to just stick with the titles that we do have. And the final reason why I don't think we're getting the 3D era games in this collection is that this is just merely a test to see if we're interested in classic Mortal Kombat titles. I've already teased at this several times in my other reasonings for why I don't think we're getting these games, and I also just think that this is also a test to see if there's some interest. Similar to what we've seen with other collections done in the past by other publishers. For an example, let's use Capcom with their Capcom Fighting Collection. They aren't just doing those to give us new ways to play the game. Another reason to see if people are interested. Why do you think that half of the roster for the first Capcom Arcade Collection was Darkstalkers titles? They were to see if people were interested in Darkstalkers as an IP. And another current example with the Capcom Arcade Collection 2, featuring plenty of crossovers with SNK. It's to see if people are potentially interested in a CVS 3. Mortal Kombat is currently trying to do the same thing. The new era wasn't as exciting or as well received as they had hoped. They're going back to the roots because that's what some people have been asking for. And how do we do that? With the Legacy Collection. We bring back versions of games that haven't been playable since the PS3 and 360 era, along with adding MK4 and MK Trilogy, two titles that have very limited access, now being presented in this collection. Not only are they just pushing for the classic titles after an admittedly mixed reception to the new era, they're probably seeing what people like about these eras and what they can do for the next title. Like, imagine they add the aggressor system back to the game, or if they borrow Mortal Kombat 4's weapon combat. They'll see what fans really liked in this collection and probably implement it into another title. We already know that Mortal Kombat is one of WB Games' big focuses right now, so maybe this is a perfect learning opportunity for them. And tying it back to this being a test for not only the next title, maybe leading to another collection. If the sales numbers are better than they expect, maybe it'll incentivize them to make another collection focusing on Shaolin Monks, Deception, Deadly Alliance, Armageddon, and if they want to sprinkle on other titles that many people thought they would completely exclude, give them the treat of including Mythology Sub-Zero with either the 64 or PlayStation versions. Even include Special Forces. If this arcade collection does super well, then maybe it'll lead to a follow-up where it's the home console collection. Not only would that be something the fans would really want to see, but it would also restore your image of people who just weren't that satisfied with the new era. So hypothetically, I do think that we're gonna get another collection collection that focuses on the home consoles, but that is if this Legacy Collection can perform well, both critically and commercially. But that's just my take. And once again, another shout out to ShinFits for interviewing Dan Amrich of Digital Eclipse regarding the collection. Consider watching their video and feel free to form your opinion based on the information provided. And there you have my breakdown and my guess of why we're not getting the PS2 era games based on some of the information that we currently have. Do you agree with me, and are you upset that we're not getting this, or are you open to another Legacy Collection exclusively focusing on just the PS2 era or 3D titles? Let me know in the comment section down below and let's have a fun discussion about it. I am really looking forward to checking out the Legacy Collection. I actually have a fun video idea where I want to invite my parents to at least play the Mortal Kombat games once again and just turn that into a fun evening, having my family play Mortal Kombat for the first time in forever. So if that's something you want to see, please drop a like, as that shows your support to the channel and it just shows that you guys want to see something fun like that. And as always, thank you so much for your continuous support. My name is Nick, and have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye bye.
Fight!